Hello, hello, hello again. I think I've just discovered a new trick for figuring out if I'm actually online, other than just checking myself or waiting for people to say hi in chat. I've noticed that by the time I manage to connect to the Twitch servers, my own little PHP script up there finally finishes connecting, so we'll wait to see if that actually finishes connecting here. If it does, then we're good. If it doesn't, then we were never good. Yep, see? Right there, just like that. What do you know? Alright, so... fajitas. Let's see if Akama wants some fajitas.
Our faith cannot be broken.
Have you retrieved the phylactery yet? Tom is out. Ah, my vision. It all becomes clear now. The powers this artifact has over a soul. To contain it. To siphon it into itself. I will use those powers to reclaim what belongs to me. The time has arrived for us to take the fight to Illidan! You might wonder why I go to such lengths to hide my intentions. Why not throw my lot in openly with the Naru? My very essence, my soul, is held prisoner inside the Black Temple. Illidan could destroy me at any moment. Until now. This phylactery will allow me to regain control of my soul. The time has come! I will lead Maiev and the Deathsworn to Illidan's doorstep. You go speak to Adal. If we strike together, we will break through Illidan's defenses.
Light guide you.
Which one, Psychotic? Hang on, let me think about that for a moment. Don't answer, don't answer. Other than Vosh herself? I'm gonna guess Calathresh because of the CC. You know, that's an interesting question, One Joker. But the problem is, remember that a warlock isn't just burning away their life, they're burning away their soul, too. Like, a warlock who completely burns out doesn't even leave a soul behind. So, I mean, you know, now that's not always going to happen, of course. Not every warlock is going to burn themselves out to total extinguishment. But for the most part, you're going to be at a state where you're like, and this tiny little dot is all that's left of your soul. I'm not even sure that would be strong enough to retain a sense of self if it was put into a phylactery. Remember, souls aren't always durable. They don't always withstand the rigors of leaving and entering bodies. Adal's light surrounds you as he welcomes you back. By the way, hi Ravenwind, hi Psychotic, hi Zuan. My 3 viewers today. You have a feeling he knows what you're about to ask him. Adal shows you the image of Naru outside the Black Temple fighting alongside Draenei Vindicators and Blood Elf Magisters. You immediately understand this is the distraction Akama was waiting for. This is a nice little lore tidbit here, by the way. So, we found out, if you'll remember correctly, that some time ago there was a Naru who was sent to the Black Temple, along with Aldor and Scryers. Now, you might have wondered why we did that. Now, at the time, I didn't bring it up because I didn't want to, like, give it away. But the point was, they knew, basically, this is a prophecy thing. The entire point of sending those troops there was so that Illidan wouldn't suddenly suspect something was up. We've been assaulting the Black Temple, you know, idly, for, at this point, months. Oh, shut up, you stupid dragon. At this point, months, ever since the Scryer forces first joined with our forces from Gael'thas. And the whole point, again, behind that is so that when we needed those forces there, for when we finally assault the Black Temple, they would already be there. Again, just kind of showcasing the capacity the Naru in general have for prophesying and being accurate about it, which is really important because there's plenty of people who can see the future, but some of them see it vaguely, or some of them see it incorrectly, or whatever. But the Naru managed to see it pretty accurately in every case we've seen them do so, and this is just another example of that. So, while we're on flight, I think this is when we'll do this little tidbit. So if you will give me a moment here. No, get rid of the sound.
I remember the temple as it used to be. A place of worship. I prayed within its chambers and meditated among its gardens. I was happy then. At peace. I remember too the day the orcs came. A day marked by cries of war and torrents of blood. When terrified women and children huddled in darkened corners. I led many to safety, but many more paid the ultimate price. That day, my beloved sanctuary became the Black Temple. There, the orc warlocks practiced a twisted magic that corrupted the land and nearly destroyed us all.
Do not do this, Gul'dan. Bear witness to the undeniable power of our Dark Master. He will destroy us all.
Even after the Horde's reckless sorcery tore the planet apart, my people were unable to find a lasting sanctuary. I remember the armies of demons that swept down on us like a plague. During these dark times, the one called Magisters made the temple his home. Then came Illidan, the one they call the Betrayer, the enemy of my enemy.
Magisters lures scores of hapless demons through them daily.
Then we must seal them permanently.
We helped him seal the portals of Outland and cut off the Legion's reinforcements. We fought with renewed strength, and together we reclaimed our sacred ground. I think part of me knew, even then, that the Black Temple had only traded one evil master for another. I prefer to remember the temple as it used to be, not the abomination it has become. My soul bears the burden of my misjudgment, but I have been patient. I have been waiting, and when the time is right, the betrayer will become the betrayed.
So, in the immortal words of me, let's do it! Zairi appears to acknowledge your presence. He seems to be focused on the battle in the surrounding area. He pulses with light as the Aldor and Scryer forces around him respond to orders. Zairi's army is ready to push Illidan's forces back and create a distraction for Akama. The Naru awaits your order to begin the attack. Yeah, I would love to get the glaives on my rogue, I have to be honest. I'm ready. Let's do it. Hopefully I'm not off-timed here. So many people were doing this the other day that I was hopeful we wouldn't be doing it while there was competition for the cutscene. I would be relatively pleased. Oh, that's a hell of a buff.
Yes.
Dealing holy damage while attacking. Yeah, okay, I'm with that. The blinders I would be absolutely ecstatic to get. That would be amazing. Die, demon dogs. Let's see, who am I working for right now? I guess the Deathsworn? The Ashtone? The Naru? I don't know. For the Horde! That's what really matters. Oops, hold back, hold back. Also, this is a little bit of a nice foreshadowing, too, as the Aldor and the Scryers are willing to set their differences aside in actual combat. I mention this because we had a little bit of a tidbit of this back in the Netherstorm, where they were willing to set aside their differences in order to coordinate against Kael'thas's forces, too. This will, of course, culminate in our final zone we'll be doing, Kil'jaeden. You know what? I don't agree with Varian on many things, but I think the one Joker and I can agree on one thing that Varian said. For Azeroth! Oh my god, it's this massive demon of incredible power! Seriously, the fact that he actually has a Netherzeem here is not insignificant. Oh god.
Now is the time, Maya. Unleash your wrath.
I have waited for this moment for years. Illidan and his lapdogs will be destroyed.
Shut up, Maev.
Slay all who see us. Word must not get back to Illidan.
It's not a thing as of this point, timeline-wise. I like the idea of Akama's strategy here, by the way. His strategy is quite literally, we have to kill literally everything that sees us, so that way there won't be anyone to report what's going on in the front of the battle. You know? Yeah, name Netherzeem, too. That further emphasizes. I'll talk a little bit more about why Maev is stupidly evil when we get to Cataclysm, by the way. I shouldn't say it like that. I just don't like her.
Akama has no master. Not anymore.
So, to reiterate what happens there, Vargoth, the named Netherzeem we just killed, said, "You have sealed your fate, Akama. The Master will learn of your betrayal." And Akama said, his line that he just said, Maev slips into the shadows, and Akama says, "Well, our plans are in danger already. It appears Maev has decided to do things her own way. We must carry on without Maev inside. Quickly!" So, this didn't used to be here. So back in the day, before Black Temple actually opened, there was a great deal of question and confusion on exactly how we were supposed to enter the Black Temple. If you don't understand what I mean, well, as you can see, we can't actually progress this way. And the door's right here and seems completely sealed, so we all just assumed we'd barge in the front gates. Now I want you to get a little bit of a visual idea in mind. This is another example of inside being, the inside being larger than the outside. For those of you who've done Black Temple, to give you a bit of perspective, that... Shut up, bird. Fine, there. Those doors right there, that's actually where Supremus stands. So this is the whole courtyard area, which, if you've done Black Temple, you know is huge. So we're actually coming out of the sewers, like, right over there, after going in right over here. I agree, actually. Going in the front gates, knowing what I know now, knowing about Akama, the Deathsworn, and the deception thereof, yeah, going in the front gates would have been ridiculous. So it's time for the Black Temple. I'd just like to admit this is one of my favorite raids in the game. I love the aesthetic. It's very dark, brooding, cold, and it still has that feel of ruins, aka this used to be someplace great about it. It's got a variety of different terrains in it, despite that. It showcases some really awesome boss fights. I don't know. I'm trying to think of what else to share about it. I love the music. It was also really nice seeing this place again after Warcraft 3, after Frozen Throne specifically. We never actually killed Illidan back in the day.
In the name of Lady Vosh.
Suppose I should talk about some of these guys. So this is High Warlord Nagentis. If you're paying attention, he actually has a different model than any other Naga we've ever seen up to him. I'll take the egg. By the way, real quick, there are 2 drops in here, pets, specifically, off of the Reliquary of Souls, I still don't have. So, if those drop during the Lorerun, I'm going to be very, very happy. They won't, but that would be nice. Yeah, no kidding, Zoan. Maybe they're not aware that we keep doing this? I don't know. So that was High Warlord Nagentis. Yeah, he was Vosh's highest lieutenant, politically, primarily, but also militarily. And he was a very... there's a specific... Those types of Naga are ones who have basically been augmented. Now, given the style that augmentation takes place in, it's actually pretty likely that means he was augmented by old god, for lack of a better term, technology. U.S. Tuttle. Always U.S. Forever U.S. Because that's where I live. So this is the place I was just talking about. There's the front gate I was just floating at right over there. And there's Supremus. Anyways, Nagentis, as an augmented Naga, is way, way stronger than your typical Naga. It's one of the reasons why he's so powerful. In fact, it has been argued that in a one-on-one fight, Nagentis might actually be able to defeat Vosh herself. And that wouldn't actually be that surprising. That seems to be in keeping with the typical gender politics of the Naga, where the women tend to actually be in charge, and yet are actually weaker than the men, with the men enforcing their will. This whole area had lots and lots of trash, and you basically had to clear all of it because you had to kite the hell out of this boss. And, we won't be kiting him, of course, but... This is Supremus. If you can't quite tell, Supremus is freaking huge. Some people have debated who the largest boss in the game is. You know, literally, in terms of just physical size. One of the people who invariably comes up for that is Supremus. I can't even get my camera up to his head. That's how big he is. I literally cannot look as high as he is. This monstrosity is gargantuan, and very indicative of what they're doing, because this guy is not actually here as a defender. I know that sounds weird, but this whole area, this is not a defensive fortification in general. This is them preparing for a war. This is them getting ready to go on the offensive. Which is funny because if you remember, lore-wise, we're here more or less incidentally because we just got ready for Akama's plans. In fact, Akama's plans might not even have been pushed forward if not for the fact that his plans started to fall apart and it was now or never. But I find that wonderfully ironic because as we can see here and elsewhere in the temple, Illidan was preparing a massive force to go straight to Shattrath and crush everything in his path there. And again, he's got that thing. Now that is an abyssal, but that is obviously a very, very, very powerful abyssal. I wouldn't be surprised if part of the Reliquary of Soul itself was pulled out in order to create the elemental that powers that thing. I don't even want to think about how much time and effort was made crafting the armor that elemental is wearing, that Supremus is wearing there. Now, Supremus has no dialogue, but I want to do one last thing to really, 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 really hammer in how big this guy is. You see his feet there? You see his toes? You see me next to his toes? Do you see this? That's how big Supremus is. This is a fun fight back in the day. Hey, Sonoshi. And hey, Cabinizer. So with him out of the way... Now, there are a lot of trash in here, and they all suck. Black Temple's trash was pretty brutal. Not as bad as the eyes, which is funny. But still pretty brutal. You had to be on your toes for everything you fought in here. We actually almost never came in the front door. Damn it, he actually saw me. Their aggro radius is huge. Hey, Meat Fist. There we go. Notice we've got the Burning Crusade overalls theme going throughout this place. Try to remember this was kind of a mixed-up situation because the original intent was for this to be the last dungeon of Outland. And then Ilsheimer's happened, and so that kind of got screwed up. And so, yeah. But that's the reason why this place actually feels more like a final dungeon than the Sunwell does in many different ways. There's the Ashtung Quartermaster. You see all this stuff here? This is all the Shadow Resistance gear stuff you can buy. You might be like, what the heck do I need Shadow Resistance for? There is a boss in this place, Ashara, or not Ashara, excuse me, Shazra, excuse me, who requires Shadow Resistance. So yes, you had to actually go through this whole thing, gain reputation with the Ashtung, and then get these patterns and then craft them just to get Shadow Resistance for one boss. Because that's kind of how Resistance worked back in the day. We talked about that in Vanilla, too. These weren't easy to make, too. 2 Hearts of Darkness, a Void Crystal, 2 Primal Lives, 4 Primal Shadows, and 4 Adamantines. Not the most expensive thing in the world, but not cheap. Hang on just a second. Okay. So you'll notice there's a bunch of Ashtung patrolling here as our enemy. That's because these Ashtung are, naturally, keeping up the facade. I mean, why wouldn't they? No word has been given to them that they can stop pretending to be Illidan's lapdogs yet. We're going to work on that in just a moment. Now, you remember how all the way back in Hellfire Peninsula, we talked about how there was this one broken we interacted with in the ruins, and he mentioned how there's always one betrayer. There's always one broken who betrays his tribe for promises of power. Well, as it turns out, there's actually a lot of broken who betray their allies or their fellow broken for promises of power. By the way, I love how Akama's just stealthed here. That's a nice touch. Anyways, see all these guys here? These are full tilt our enemies. These are not people who are pretending to be our enemies. These are the Ashtung who are actually our enemies. And as you will see here, Illidan put other broken in charge of securing in charge of securing Akama's soul. I don't know if you even fully... I feel like I'm understating this. That is such a ridiculous betrayal that they would be willing to do that to their own leader whom they owe their lives to. And they'd be like, no, we'll totally just keep being the jailers of your soul. That's those guys right there. And of course, this is Akama's soul right here. You thought I was being facetious. That is literally his soul right there. Because Illidan wanted to have a backup plan, basically. And yes, we did kill some allies earlier, which sucks. Which is another reason I didn't want to aggro any of them. Because I'm a softie like that. Illidan's grasp over my tribe is strong. Are you ready? Let's do it! Okay, so this is... You notice how, like, virtually every raid tier has at least one boss that's just a loot pinata? This is the one for this. This is an incredibly easy fight. Any any guild who can even reach this fight could crush this fight like a bug. This is always just a relaxing thing. This is really, really simple. Mobs spawn from both sides, so you split up, you split up the forces between the two sides, and you have one team whose entire job is killing the sorcerers. And then we do this. And we kill this guy who is just ridiculously easy. Bam! And it's over. Very, very, very easy fight. Also marks basically the halfway point in the raid. So, in response to the One Joker's question, I've actually pondered that myself for a while. I'll go ahead and say right now, we don't have a definitive answer for what's going on with Akama. He in no way acts like a Type 3A undead. He acts like a Type 3B undead. But as we've established, his soul is quite literally separated from him. I think what we have here is actually a unique situation. I think what we have here is his soul is here specifically in order to... what I think is his soul is still attached, if that makes any kind of sense at all. His soul is still attached to him. It's just physically here, so Illidan can kill it at will if he betrays him. Again, a very unique situation. I can't think of any other circumstance we have in Warcraft where this exact circumstance happens. Anyway, I'm going to read Akama's speech here. Broken of the Ash-Tongue tribe, your leader speaks. The betrayer no longer holds sway over us. Ah! Spam. His dark magic over the Ash-Tongue soul has been destroyed. Come out from the shadows. I have returned to lead you against our true enemy. Shed your chains and raise your weapons against your Ilidari masters. We're just that good, Cabinizer. Anyways, that's my theory on it. Zoan Joker. I don't have a better answer for that. It is... Well, I guess that's not true. There's one other answer for that is a potential. Hang on just a second. The other answer that has been postulated for that is it is entirely possible that's actually not Akama's soul. That's not even a soul in general. That's just a flavorful term they're using. That it's more like a magical gaze they're using in order to maintain control over them. And if it's destroyed, then the Ash-Tongue are destroyed. A bit of a stretch, but I could see it. It would also kind of explain the lack of undeading on Akama. Hey, Leander. Welcome to the Black Temple. So as you can see, this is another good example of what Illidan's been doing in here. Lots and lots of Shadow Moon in here. This is pretty much all that's left of the Fell Horde at this point in time. By the way, as an aside, you see all these weapons and all the arms they're using and all the grain and all the material. All of this has been provided by the Dragon Maw, as I mentioned before. The Dragon Maw, they no longer have the resources being drawn from because the Dragon Maw were dismantled both by us and by Illidan himself. So that again brings across another point that I was mentioning earlier as kind of an irony. We have actually pushed Illidan to attack us, I think, because we have basically dismantled Illidan's empire almost in its entirety. So he's at the point now where the only thing he can really do is turn around and go after us. To go on the offensive, to retake territory, in order to be able to regain his lost power. So yeah, all of these people are getting ready for war. Also, just because I want to show it off, hey Salty, that's Azeroth. You can see the Maelstrom right there. There's the Eastern Kingdoms. There's Kalimdor over there. I mention this because it's worth noting that that cannot physically be there. First of all, if a planet was close enough to another planet like that, the gravitational effects of the two on each other would be insane. But more to the point, as we've already discussed, Outland is not in space anymore. It's cosmically drifting through the nether. But one thing we also know is that Azeroth is very, very... It's a magical beacon for the entirety of everything, basically. It's one of the reasons Azeroth is a Nexus world. So the fact that we can see Azeroth literally through the Twisting Nether, that makes perfect sense. And that's how we can see it here. And that is true. Outland is not a planet anymore. But my point remains firm. We're not literally in orbit of Azeroth right now.
I was the first.
Whoops.
For me, the wheel of death has spun many times. So much time has passed. I have a lot of catching up to do.
That's Teron Gorefiend. Notice he's, of course, here with a bunch of orcs. He's also been the one training this new generation of orcs. This, again, lends credits to the theory that I mentioned yesterday. That would be kind of cool, Meadfist, I'll admit that. Lends credits to the theory I mentioned yesterday about how the reason Gorefiend came here to the temple was to basically start building up a new power base. He's the one actually who's been training most of these Fel Orcs, trying to train a new generation of Death Knights. We already know that. Now, I wish I could show off the Gorefiend fight to you proper. The Gorefiend fight is actually one of my favorite fights. It's also called, go do that one particular web app, and if you can't do it perfectly, you're out of the raid fight. How many of you know what I'm talking about there? Okay, so what he does, I literally can't show you this. What he does is he will hit random people with a debuff that basically makes them dead. They then have to go back here and effectively play a mini-game, for lack of a better term, in order to keep all of these undead spirits away from the rest of the raid back here. It was actually pretty easy to do in-game. The mini-game that was on the website was actually harder to do than actually doing it in-game, at least in my opinion. So yes, the prototype vehicle fight. Very true. We had a lot of issues with this. There were several members of our raid who just could not figure out how to do this role. And the thing is, basically, everyone had to do it. Because anyone except for the tanks could be picked to be tossed back here. Actually, I'm not even sure if anyone on the tanks could do that. I'm not even sure if the tanks couldn't be picked. But anyways, point being, of the other, at the very least, of the other 23 people, at least one person could be picked for this to go back here and do this. My job was making sure our tank had aggro. Now, I know you're looking at me like, huh? Let me explain. I was on my hunter when I was raiding Black Temple. That's a good time to talk about that, too. I was raiding on my hunter, and so I'm here and constantly trying to pour threat into the tank because, well, he couldn't hold it for a damn. And so I would be, as a buffer zone, because I was doing so much damage, I would just basically chase the tank's threat so that everyone else could use my threat as a barrier to, okay, this is what we have to not penetrate, and then I would feign death, get back up, do it again, and of course pour that all into him, because he was a terrible tank. He was such a bad tank. Oh my god. It was so insulting having to be a DPS with him as the tank. I should have been tanking that, but anyways. So I have a bit of a story to share that some of you have heard. So here I am, fighting Teron freaking Gorefiend on my hunter, while doing the misdirect thing, while trying the feign death thing, while standing back and being prepared to do this thing at any given time. And one of my coworkers walks in, because I'm at work at this time, and his name was Steve. Those of you who've heard this story probably already know where this is going, but I'll go ahead and finish just for those of you who haven't. This is where Steve's voice comes from. Because Steve comes in and is like, oh, you're playing World of Warcraft, right? I can't do Steve's voice anymore, but, no, you're playing World of Warcraft, right? Yeah, I have a lot of fun with it. And I'm okay with talking while raiding. I'm pretty good at multitasking. Or at least I should say I used to be pretty good at multitasking. This was obviously a couple years ago. And so I'm just doing my job, going off. And I'm doing like 6 or 7 very complicated things. You know, I got picked while he's talking to me for the thing, so I'm keeping everything off of him. And he's like, you know, now forgive me, I don't remember exactly what he said anymore. It's like I said, it's been several years. But the equivalent of what he said is, so you know, one of the things you should do as a hunter, you always got to make sure you have lots of ammo. And got to make sure you got your pet out too. Got to keep your pet fed. Like, it's really hard sometimes, but sometimes you really need to make sure you keep food on your bags at all time. That way you can go feed your pet. Yep. Yeah, I've got like a level 28 hunter. Yep. And he's a good. And this whole time I'm just running around like a maniac doing this fight. We actually succeeded on this particular attempt too. And he's just telling me how to play a hunter in like the most basic possible concept, the stuff you would learn by level 10. Oh, yeah, that's another thing. You want to get a quiver on you too. It's a good way to hold your ammo. Yep. Yep, yep. And I'm just sitting here like, and it's in my nature to be polite to people. So I can't say anything I'm thinking. So I'm just kind of politely nodding like, yep, that's a thing. That's, yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely need to have that ammo. Oh, apparently, Monkey, I was the worst hunter in the universe as I'm raiding Black Temple, and he's telling me how to make sure I stay at range when I attack, because if I get too close, I can't attack them with my bow. So that's where Steve's voice comes from. I was literally fighting Teron Gorefiend in Black Temple, and he was like, woo, 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 woo. So anyways.
Vengeance is mine!
Fun fact, this fight actually used to be the hardest fight to solo, excuse me, second hardest fight to solo in, third hardest fight to solo in here. Really back in the day.
So bad. The wheel spins again.
Who out there thinks we'll ever see Teron Gorefiend again? This Teron Gorefiend specifically. Yeah, no kidding, Stukov. Oh. Anyways. Yeah. By the way, as it occurred to me that you know, there's other harder fights. To explain the harder fights to solo in here, Illidan himself was actually very brutal to solo back in the day. Before they implemented the whole lower level stuff is easier thing. So we actually used to have to really coordinate and do a few things very particularly in order to take out Illidan back in the day. But the really hard one in here is the Reliquary of Souls. Anyone remember how soloing the Reliquary of Souls used to be this constant just balancing act? I do, because I've been streaming since that was true. There are actually still some of my videos up on YouTube of my old speedrun attempts of Black Temple, where I was just doing the balancing act on the Reliquary of Souls. Don't forget to feed your pet! Nowadays, the Reliquary is nowhere near as much of an issue. See, back in the day, the second of the two, Desire, had this aura. This aura would make you take the damage you deal. So if you came here at, say, I don't know, level 90 or so, and you weren't very, very careful about the damage you did, you would quite literally kill yourself. That's ignoring all the other fun stuff about that fight. Reliquary is, in my opinion, one of the hardest fights in this raid in general. Now, I don't say that personally, as weird as that probably sounds. What I should rephrase that sentence. In my opinion, well, I shouldn't even say in my opinion. Our raid had the hardest time with the Reliquary of Souls, more than any other boss in here. We even had trouble doing this frickin' gauntlet. This is actually a gauntlet, believe it or not. This little area right here. And we'd go up here, and we'd go around like this. Of course, I'm going to stop for a moment and talk about what the Reliquary is, because it's actually one of the most important lore things in this entire raid, believe it or not. That's the Reliquary right there. This massive building with this kind of living bone chain magic shell thing. But the real important thing is down there. You see that? Through the cracks there? That is effectively a new well of eternity right there. So what Illidan did... Illidan knew that he had to purchase the services of demons away from the Burning Legion, or in general, in order to ever have a chance when the Burning Legion and when Kil'jaeden came back to go after him. So what he did was he made this massive nexus of energy here based out of all... Okay, so hang on. We've already established how souls can be converted into magical energy. We've seen the ethereals do that, right? Whether the ethereals did this or not, we don't know, and I don't think they did personally. But we do know that he took the huge amount of souls, you can actually see them flying around there. He took the huge amount of souls that was left in the Temple of Karabor from the Orcish invasion, converted them all into a huge nexus of energy, and then dipped one of his remaining vials into it, creating a new Well of Eternity. And then he kept the reliquary here in order to maintain control over it. This is such a powerful, massive source of magical power that this was able to purchase the services of not just regular demons, but massive demons, Nethrazim and Pit Lords, where he purchased their service away from the Burning Legion because of this thing right here, because of this single thing. This is the crux of Illidan's power in Outland, and I mean that sincerely. If it wasn't for this, he would never have made it as far as he did with the forces he had. He would have been cut off and doomed if the Legion tried to go after him at all. That being said, there's one other interesting thing about this. In an ideal world in which Illidan wasn't evil, and in which Kael'thas wasn't an idiot, so in other words, if Ilzheimer's had never happened, it is actually very likely that this would have been the salvation of the Blood Elf race. Because that is what this was originally intended for. I mean, yes, you could use this magic to pull to the service of demons, but this was designed to be a new way to connect to the Blood Elves, just like the Sunwell was. This was going to be a second Sunwell. And obviously when Kael'thas switched sides, that kind of went away. However, this is also why so many Blood Elves actually stayed loyal to Illidan and basically abandoned Kael'thas, because, hey, here's the solution to our magical addiction. Yes, the reliquary still exists, at least as of Pandaria, said one joker. We actually go there in Pandaria during a single quest chain, the Blackfire quest chain. Oh, I should be clarifying something. That thing right there, the boss we're about to fight, does not exist as of Pandaria. But that thing does. The actual Well of Souls, the actual magical font, the new Sunwell, does still exist, yes. I hope so too, Meatfist. So let's go ahead and fight this sucker. This is actually 3 different fights in one, basically. But unlike some fights, you don't have to fight them all at once. God, this thing moves so creepily. First is suffering.
Pain and suffering are all that await you. I don't want to go back.
After suffering, we will be fighting desire. After desire, we'll be fighting anger. Now, suffering was the really easy phase of this. It was the build-up phase. The only real complexity to suffering was you had to be careful who was taking damage at any given point in time. He had no aggro table at all in suffering's phase. He just hits whoever's closest to him. So you could always control who he's going after. Desire's the rough one. Which I'm gonna...
You can have anything you desire for a price.
Forgive me for pushing through that one. Desire is the most chance to actually kill me, which is why I just wanted to push through it as quickly as possible. As I mentioned earlier, Desire had an aura that makes you take the damage that you deal. So, like I said, kind of a bit of a problem. Also, she would do Deaden. Also, she would do this kind of... I forget what it's called, but it's this thing that would prevent you from taking action. Oh, and in addition to that, after a certain period of time, you would have 0 mana on the fight. All of these fights are pretty complicated and very, very coordination checks, in addition to gear checks. The last one, of course, is anger.
Beware, I live.
Anger is technically the easiest one, at least by my perspective, because he's simple. I like how the ribs die too, by the way. That's a really nice touch. Come on, no whammy, no whammy, no whammy. Whammy. Damn it! So I'm still missing 3 pets in the game from raids. And 2 of them drop off of this boss. Yeah. Anger was basically just a DPS race, as long as you faced him the right direction. Not really a lot of complexity there. So that was the Reliquary. It's time to go see how Illidan's war effort is coming. We've already seen where his elite troops are, but one of the other things Illidan was doing was experiments. Because everyone does experiments in this setting, I swear, don't they? He was trying to create, well, those things, basically. You see those behemoths? Those are actually severely mutated, warped and twisted fell orcs who are actually supposed to be giants like that in lore, rather than just, you know, being large mobs as they usually are. A lot of fell infusion, a lot of alchemy. This is basically the culmination of the research that was started all the way back in the Blood Furnace. You remember that? Way back in Hellfire Peninsula? All of that research has culminated in these wonderful creatures, and they have one perfect one, too. They have made one amazing, incredibly powerful orc, who we'll actually be seeing again, believe it or not. Gurtog. Gurtog Bloodboil, who actually, funnily enough, he actually has the skeleton mesh of a troll, a berserker troll, specifically. But he is the new generation of orc warriors. He is intended to be the prototype for a whole breed of an army that Illidan was going to make. Unfortunately, because we took out his forces in the Blood Furnace and got rid of his source of fell blood, thanks to taking out Magisters, he can actually never make another Gurtog. So Gurtog is it, basically.
I will crush you.
This is a fun fight, by the way. Basically, he was actually a really fun fight for me as a non-tank. Because periodically he would pick someone else to go he would fixate on them, basically, and go beat the crap out of them. It was a lot of fun. And there were a few other things, like the multiple bleeds and dots he would put on you. Yeah, fun fight. You'll notice this is a minute-long bleed he put on me, by the way. A minute long, and it was stacking up very quickly. So even if a tank stops tanking them, they're still going to be taking dot damage for some time. Now, it's time to go to, well, there's no nice way to put this, the concubines. Because, I mean, every demonic overlord needs concubines, right? Right? I don't know. I gotta be honest, I have a headcanon for this area. This is a rather ridiculously large area, though, for this, okay? There are a lot of women here. Concubines and courtesans are the 2 primary things. By the way, notice a lot of these are humans. So we've got a lot of blood elves here and a lot of humans here. And the occasional servant who is enslaved, of course, because, I mean, what else are you going to use as a servant? A non-slave? So I guess I should mention my headcanon for this place. It's actually really simple. My general idea is that this was not set up by Illidan, and in fact I can't even picture him doing such a thing. This was actually set up by the Mother Shazra herself in order to keep the troops happy, basically. And if you remember, Illidan's forces used to stretch out across basically the entire continent. So that kind of helps to explain why this area is so large, too. I mean, this is a huge area, and this is still concubines and courtesans and whatnot. And, of course, the occasional Priestess of Delight and Priestess of Dementia. Because, you know, you gotta mix it up a little bit or something, I don't know. But that's just my headcanon on it, because, yeah, this is a little ridiculous. I also have one other thing of a headcanon. Some people would look at me like, oh, you're just naive, harsh. You just don't, want that kind of thing in your game. To which, yeah, I will say you are absolutely correct, at least on the me not wanting that in my game kind of thing. However, I will say this. Some people tend to forget that it's not just sex. This kind of a situation, for courtesans especially, they weren't just there to screw you. They were there to talk or chat or maybe give you a massage. No, not that kind of a massage. Or maybe they just wanted someone to be with or to it's kind of, basically company is the point. So in my opinion, that's the other thing, the other niggle of this place. A lot of these women are literally here to give company to the many, many Blood Elf forces who were serving underneath the Ilidari. Hey, Kovac. Now, yes, there was probably sex happening. Because, that's Mother Shara's, and she's basically a desire demon in every way that matters.
Business or pleasure? I'm all yours.
I rest my case.
I wasn't
toying with my emotions.
finished.
Really? I get that pet? One I already have? No, a prostitute implies getting paid, Cabinizer. So this is a funny boss, by the way. She hits pretty hard, as you might imagine, someone who's literally quad-wielding really awesome-looking swords. I like those swords for transmog, by the way. You can get them. But the real complexity of her was the nature of her beams attacks that she would do. I don't even know how to describe these properly. It would basically be like, you take extra shadow damage and you take extra... was it fire damage? I actually can't remember. And you had to have shadow resist suits, and then you had to swap based on where the beams hit, and it was this whole dance you had to do while fighting her. Which was the actual difficulty of her, not the fact that she hit like a truck. It's just funny. Now, one thing that is interesting to me, we've seen the Fel Orcs, and we've seen how the Illidari treat the Fel Orcs. The Fel Orcs are grunts. They are base troops. They don't have any rights or privileges or whatever. They're just down there fighting for their Illidari masters. We've also seen how he treats the demons, because pretty much all of the demons are either here to service the other troops or are part of the front lines. But his actual elite are blood elves. The Illidari, the high-level Illidari here. These are the actual elite troops and the actual leaders of Illidan's armies, is the blood elves. Something about that amuses me. And also kind of helps explain, again, why so many blood elves stayed loyal to him in the face of Kael'thas's thing. In fact, the Illidari are technically led by blood elves, which I'm going to explain in just a second. You see these guys? These guys right here are the actual ones running the Illidan Empire. Illidan himself is off brooding and making things worse. He is almost a typical bad boss. He's someone who just walks in and messes up what his subordinates are trying to do and goes back home. He's actually a fairly common Malik kind of a character at this point, just not as severe, but same idea. These guys, these are the Ilidari Council. Yeah, exactly, is the one Joker. I mean, seriously. So the Ilidari Council are the four people who unite together. These four actually control the entire empire. They're the ones making all of the decisions, all of the military movements, everything. We're about to kill them. Vera's Dark Shadow, which is funny because we won't actually see him. The High Nethermancer Zerevor, he's fun. Gathios the Shatterer, hate him. And Lady Meland, that was my job, was dealing with Meland. We've got Priest, Paladin, Mage, and Rogue, respectively. They also have a buff called Balance of Power, health shared with the other council members. Now, fun little fact, that's not actually true. What they were doing here, later on they would have bosses who literally share health, or trash mobs who literally share health. One health pool for two MOBs, right? But they didn't actually have that tech back in BC. So what they would do is every time Veros takes damage, there would be another formula, another calculation to then distribute that damage to the others. But it takes a second. So for example, and you could see this, if you come here and just nuke all your damage into one of them, he won't die because he can't die until that formula finishes calculating. So his health will do this as he distributes all the damage he's taking to the others. because they don't literally share a health pool. Instead, it's just the distributed damage thing. It was a nice way to trick it, though, and basically nobody ever really noticed that back in the day. Yes, you did, Boletaria. Last thing I want to mention, I would love a story arc where the Ilidari Council here, these 4 people, were like maybe even just a short story, where these ones were trying to make some kind of actual future for the Illidari in general, in spite of Illidan's interference. Like, they were actually trying to make things better in some ways. Maybe not, I don't mean like as a good guy, but I mean trying to actually make a functional empire with actual territories that they actually control, rather than just, I will glare at this skull forever, you know, that kind of a thing. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and take out the council.
You wish to test me?
You can see it right there. You see how Gathios' health keeps resetting like that? No, they're dead. I'll take the cloak. Hey, Akama. Where were you? I could have used your help a second ago. Let us finish what we've started. I will lead you to Illidan's abode once you've recovered your strength. I'm ready. Just to get across how distant Illidan has become as a so-called ruler, the only way to actually enter his domain properly is through a gateway that is severely sealed by his own runes. I get the very strong impression Illidan is literally not taking visitors, even amongst his own people. He's just, leave me alone. Leave me alone. Yeah, literally not even aware of what's going on in his own fortress. Ironically, that is actually somewhat consistent for Illidan. This is kind of cool, by the way. Akama says, I cannot do this alone. There's the spirit of Udalo and the spirit of Olim, the 2 broken who died in order to make sure this plan happened. One in Arcatraz, and one who we actually ended up having to kill ourselves, basically. So between the 3 of them, they managed to channel enough power to unlock the seal of the Betrayer. Really, we should just start renaming Illidan the Betrayed, though. I mean, after all he went through. God dang. I thank you for your aid, brothers. Our people will be redeemed. And again, you can see Azeroth right there. Just like earlier. And there's Illidan.
Very friends. The betrayer meditates in the court just beyond.
Poor Illidan. First of all, when he says meditates, what he means is obsessively stares at the skull of Gul'dan. Some people have theorized that this is pretty much the reason why Illidan went crazy, why he completely descended into dark madness. We know the skull of Gul'dan can severely corrupt someone because we literally saw it happen to Ner'zhul, right? Now, I've already given my theory as to why that happened. I believe Ner'zhul basically died as of that action and was replaced by Gul'dan, his soul hopping into him kind of a situation. And it would make a lot of things make sense if that's true. But even if that's not true, one way or another, that skull is an extremely corruptive item. It is one of the most fel-infused artifacts that we know of in the entire setting. So it is very logical that Illidan keeping this thing on him would kind of go bad as a result of it. Also, as an aside, the fact that he fixates on it so much is kind of indicative as well. Remember, one of the things that has defined Gul'dan most is his obsession, his ability to do basically anything as long as it accomplishes his goals. And we kind of see that in Maiev as well, as I talked about back in the Warcraft 3 Lorerun. So the fact that he is literally obsessed, just fixating on this skull, keeps that trend going. However, I feel bad for Illidan. I really don't know what else to add to that, actually. This is a great spot for a last battle, by the way. Literally on the roof of the Black Temple. Believe it or not, this is still in character. Though this one thing is in character for Illidan. So down there is where the Ilidari Council is. That's also where the thrones are. That's where the leadership of the Illidari Empire comes from. Down there. Illidan's up here. He's on the roof. So, in two ways, we immediately see that this is very in keeping with his mentality. Number one, Illidan doesn't want to be in charge. He has never wanted an empire. Ever. Since all the way back in the War of the Ancients. He has wanted the power and the magic. He has wanted to be personally powerful, but he has never actually sought to be politically powerful. The only time he really tried to forge an empire was specifically to defend himself from Kil'jaeden. Right? So, he doesn't actually care about, he literally doesn't care about the trappings of the empire, or the running of it, or the management of it. Let the others deal with that. I will be the lord, the figurehead, and I can go do my own thing. You go ahead and run the empire. Okay? Second reason this is indicative. This is the man who was imprisoned for a stupidly long period of time. And he's on a roof. And he can fly and teleport. My point here is, I know this is a little thing, but for me, if I was someone who had been imprisoned for a stupid long period of time, I wouldn't mind hanging out on the roof either. That feeling of openness and freedom would be probably very appealing to me at that point. But of course, as has been said in chat, he was betrayed one final time by the Riders of BC. Here's hoping the Riders of Legion make it up to him. Let's go start the fight.
Akama, your duplicity is hardly surprising. I should have slaughtered you and your malformed brethren long ago.
We've come to end your reign, Illidan. My people and all of Outland shall be free.
Boldly said, but I remain unconvinced.
The time
4,
has come.
3,
The moment is at hand.
1.
You are not prepared. Come, my minions. Deal with this traitor as I will not be touched
I'll
by
deal with
wrath
these
such as
monsters.
you.
Strike now, friends. Strike.
Slaves of Asenath.
Believe it or not, this phase right here used to be the hardest part to solo. The reason why is these flames here, unless you position them very carefully, would absolutely destroy you. They would gain a buff that literally quintuples their damage. This whole fight in general at the time was insane. Many, many phases and very, very difficult. This fight sucked. As I pointed out, we never actually killed him. We never got him down in the day. We fell victim to the 2% rule.
Is this it, mortals? Is this all the fury you can muster?
Their fury pales before mine, Illidan. We have some unsettled business between us.
Damn it, Maev.
Maev, how is it even possible?
Ah, my long hunt is finally over. Today, justice will be done. It is finished. You are beaten.
A little too loud there.
You have won, Maev. But the Huntress is nothing without the hunt. You are nothing without me.
He is right. I feel nothing. I am nothing. Farewell, champions.
The light will bless these dismal halls once again. I swear it.
So this is fun. You notice how Illidan's still alive. He's actually got 1 health left. Sorry, Illidan, but I really need you in Legion, so... Funk. Nothing. Yeah, nothing. I was really hoping for the eye mask. That would have been awesome. There's no lore reason for it, no, Jedi Mew. There's, however, a pure gameplay reason for it. So, I have to be honest, I was one of those people who was really pissed off at the way Illidan was betrayed. Let's just put it bluntly in BC. I was trying to say portrayed, but honestly, betrayed kind of gets it across as well. He is not an evil person. He's not really a good guy, but at no point in time has he been abstractly evil, you know? Especially not cartoonishly evil, which is how he's portrayed throughout BC. Now, I know, they've since retconned that, so he was corrupted and the fell energies, blah, 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 blah. No, that's not Illidan. God damn it. Illidan was arrogant, certainly. Illidan was self-interested, certainly, but he was the kind of person who would go out of his way to help other people, especially if he saw that they were in some kind of a plight, because he himself sympathized with what it was like to be under such plights, having suffered so much throughout his time. He has had a turbulent history, and again, don't forget, every time he has been betrayed, it has been done in huge, out of proportion to what he has done. I want to remind you, him switching sides during the War of the Ancients, that's not why they call him the Betrayer. That's not why they sentence him to life in prison for an immortal being. No. They did that because he made the Well of Eternity. In fact, if you'll forgive me for one moment, I need to pull something up here, because I have another little tidbit to add to that, in addition to what I already had to add about. Thanks to Warcraft Chronicles. Where is it? I believe it's this one. Bingo. Before the Sundering, Illidan had filled several vials with enchanted liquid from the original Well of Eternity. He poured some of them into a lake atop Mount Hyjal, transforming the idyllic waters into a font of arcane power. Violence erupted when a group of Night Elves confronted Illidan, and his brother Malfurion was forced to restrain him. Yet Illidan insisted that a new Well of Eternity was necessary. With it, the Night Elves would have arcane power they needed to fight off the Burning Legion when, not if, when they returned. Although some of the surviving Highborn agreed with him, the majority did not. They chastised him for his brash and selfish act, claiming the new well would be a gateway for the Legion. Even then, he remained unapologetic, because he was right. And so, seeing no other recourse, the Night Elves decided to deal with him once and for all. The decision was made to imprison him. Malfurion himself would see to enacting this punishment with the help of Cenarius. He chained Illidan deep within a barrow prison and charged the priestess Maiev Shadowsong to stand guard over the wayward sorcerer. The Betrayed. See you around, Cabinizer. Really? You know? Really? Oh, by the way, he still has his memento of Tyrande on him. Just a nice little point there. And the Bulwark of Azeroth, which I actually use on my warrior. And by use, I mean transmog, but you get my point. Oh my god. And thus Illidan dies. Now I'm going to talk a little bit more about what we do know that happened to Illidan after this point in time. So Illidan died, and his soul went off to do what most souls do when they die, right? Yeah, no kidding, Leander. His body, Maiev is, well, as I mentioned earlier, she's really, really obsessed, very fixated. So what Maiev did, just to make sure, just to spite him, what Maiev did was took his corpse from the top of the Black Temple, dragged it back to Azeroth with her, and chained it up in the Barrow Dens. Just to make sure that his corpse served out his sentence of eternal imprisonment. I don't even know what to add to that. By the way, just to really, really flesh this out, Maiev intended to stay there at first until she realized that the Night Elves needed her help, and I'll get more to that in Cataclysm. Gah! Oh my god! Resurrection is not a common thing, no. It is a thing, though, absolutely. So the ability to resurrect him is within possibility, yes. He is not destroyed, to answer Progue's question. It is possible to resurrect him. And you know what, Tettlesy? You're welcome. I'm glad you've been liking this. I do try. Can Illidan become undead? Not sure. Because he is technically demonic, infused, he might actually literally be an artificial demon at this point. We're not actually sure. So, if he is, then we don't know if demons can become undead. We're not sure. That's never actually happened. So, one last thing we've got to do in BC. I hope so too, Admiral. Admiral Tepes, am I saying that right? We'll see, I suppose, in, months and months and months. So welcome to the Shattered Sun Offensive, and Kil'jaeden, also known as Awesomeville. Forgive me, but this place was really awesome. I actually had a lot of fun here back in the day. This is probably the first daily quest hub I actually enjoyed doing the dailies on. Excuse me. Even though the Netherwing had some good storyline stuff, and the Ogrilla stuff had some good lore stuff, this place was actually fun to do. There's a lot of awesome stuff here. I'm going to try and show it off as much as I can at level 100. The general idea here is actually pretty simple. This is Kil'jaeden, right? I did a little bit of looking into this, by the way. This actually was always an island. They always built the Sunwell out on this island, so he didn't actually separate it after the fact. This is the Dead Scar, the path the undead took. There's the Sunwell right, actually there in the middle. And this is the Sunwell Plateau. That's the actual raid we'll be doing. Forgive me. My nose has been giving me issues today. Whole bunch of cool stuff here. We actually come back here one other time, but we'll be showing that off on camera too, which is awesome. I also really like their emblem. In fact, I have that tabard on one of my transmog suits. Hey, Lestarko. Hey, Rigel. Hey, Octavian. Hey, everyone! So we can see there's quite a few Wretched here. Quite a few of the Dawnblade. I'll talk about the Dawnblade in just a second. And, if we go a little bit more this direction, we see that there's tons and tons of demons, which are being summoned through that portal. Now, the really cool thing about Kil'jaeden is it wasn't... these dailies, I should say, the Shattered Sun Offensive dailies. Of course, we have the monument up. Of course we do on this server. Are you kidding me? We had that up so fast. That it wasn't just dailies here. So, like I said, let's go ahead and give you a little bit of a tour. The initial quests you get were up over here in this area. And first thing you have to deal with is the fact that... Yeah, it does, doesn't it, Darsh Monster? Nice touch, huh? Anyways, first thing you have to deal with is the incoming Blood Elf fleet. Now, that is the Dawnblade fleet. Again, I'll talk more about the Dawnblade in just a second. But you have a mission to go out there, kill some of their sailors, and try to burn their flags. Pretty cool mission, actually. Then you get a mission which I'm hopeful I can actually get, because I really want to just do it and show it off. I don't remember if it's a regular one or not. Oh, me too, Hylisk. Anyone ever see the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie? There's a scene in that every time I look at nowadays, I think of the Scourge marching through the ocean into the Isle of Kil'jaeden. So no, you cannot. This is a BC zone. So as you can see, I'm ground-bound.
Victory lies ahead.
Let's see. No.
Remember the Sunwell.
Do not loiter.
No.
The Naru have not forgotten us.
No.
Be well.
Yes, you did, little Billy. But yeah, you can't fly. There's only 3 places in Azeroth that you can't fly in anymore. Oh, overworld places, I mean. The Blood Elf areas, Kil'jaeden, and the Draenei areas. I don't remember where to get the quest. Unless it's just not up today, which is entirely possible. I'm not worried about Felmist. I know how to fight her.
Good fortune.
Nope.
Good health.
Anaria
long
Shola.
life.
Bingo!
Be
There it is.
ready for anything.
Okay, so when we first came here, not all of the dailies were here, and not all of the areas were unlocked. We hadn't. We basically this was so cool. Yes, Magister. You had like a little bit of dailies, and as we did them, the server would like update percentage-wise until it reached the point where we had successfully claimed the staging area up here. Once we claimed the staging area, that area up ahead here would become claimed. And so then our NPCs would show up there and our guards would show up there. And then they would have more dailies, which we would do in order to claim the next area. And then we would claim the next area and so forth and so on. So it was like the server was actually slowly conquering their way in to this Dawnblade-held territory. And it was really cool seeing that progress as we went through it. I loved that. It was really, really fun. And it gave you this literal feeling of the fact that you were part of an event. Because you were, literally. So I could do the rest of this on land, but I think I'm going to do it by air. Because I just got the quest I wanted. But there's quests to set up arcane golems and defeat the wretched. And just lots and lots and lots of variety of dailies in addition to just being...
Anu Belore Delana.
in addition to just having a lot of different dailies. It was very well designed. Like, there were quests to gather resources, there were quests to set up spy wards in certain areas. Whole bunch of awesome stuff here. And of course, one thing I'll show off in just a minute. If we go over here, we had the so-called Naga quests. Oh, also, that is literally where Mauru is, right in that building right up there. Which I just like that they showed this area. So here's where the Naga have moved in, basically, over in this facility. The Naga, of course, have brought their Murloc slaves, because that's what they do. We actually end up freeing several of those slaves as part of these things. As part of the dailies over here. We can also attune certain magical scrolls to the area to give us temporary buffs, portals to be able to go straight back to Shatrith. And of course, by the way, there were also dailies that weren't even here that are a part of this, which were... Whoops. Which were here on the throne of Kil'jaeden, where we were fighting Fell Elves. Fell Elves are pretty much exactly what they sound like. They're elves that have drunk the blood of demons, just like Fell Orcs have. But whereas Fell Orcs... By the way, you see the dead scar has literally come across the ocean all the way here. Notice, by the way, the demons in charge of this area under Kil'jaeden are fighting the undead still. Try to keep that in mind, because it really helps emphasize the Scourge, I think, in a weird way. The fact that the undead are still fighting the demons. And there's Brutalis, by the way. He's a fun little guy. And there's Madragosa. We'll be talking about her soon. So this was a brilliant way to showcase the raid while setting up for the dailies, while leading up to it, while feeling part of the story. This whole patch was awesome. The entire Sunwell patch was amazing. You know, even the Pit Lords are having issues. I mean, for God's sakes. Yeah, you can literally see the path, the Scourge just shoved forward there towards the Sunwell. Very Scourge thing to do. Doing this daily in one run used to be quite difficult with how camped it usually was, too. Just as an aside. This one I'm doing right now. The funny thing is, as I've mentioned before, this is an island even in lore. Because, yeah, this is where they built the Sunwell. This is where the nexus of the ley lines happens, which is what they built the Sunwell into and out of. along with, of course, the vial. Also, you can see a little bit of where we'll be fighting a couple of bosses and whatnot up there in the Sunwell Plateau. Not that I'm aware of, Magister. Because the Sunwell Plateau has been there at least since, according to what I understand, at least there since before Warcraft 3. Since the Scourge had to actually literally smash their way through the walls to get in. I am not 100% on that, but yeah. So, welcome to Kil'jaeden. Awesome zone. Personally, I would say the Throne of Thunder is at least on par with this patch. Actually, yes, Siwan. A ghoul can rise in rank because it's not that hard to resurrect them as something stronger or better. And all they have to do is prove themselves useful to the Scourge in some manner. But before we do anything else, one last thing we need to deal with. And that's the spin-up speed on my hard drive.
It was called the Sunwell. A sacred fount of untold power. It saturated every fiber of our being. In the warmth of its glow, we thrived. Until the shadow of death fell upon us. The Sunwell's destruction, did we realize how dependent we'd become upon its magic. How much we needed to feed. In the wake of our devastation, I named our people Cinderai, Blood Elves. My people turned to me for answers. I promised them a cure. Strangely, we found deliverance in the demon Illidan. Illidan offered new sources of arcane power, and so I joined him in Outland, pledging to return one day to lead our people to glory. But Illidan's agenda was short-sighted. I grew impatient. In secret, I began harvesting what energies I could. I had a brief taste of true power. Before it was taken from me. But all is not lost. The Sunwell's essence endured, kept hidden by those who sought to protect it. Now, I have returned with the knowledge that sacrifices must be made before we can reclaim our birthright. I have forged a new alliance. Soon, the blessed rays of the Sunwell will shine once again and usher into this world the one who will deliver us all.
As an aside, note that they actually call him Demon there. I mention that because I've had a growing theory over the past few years that Illidan is literally an artificial demon. So, in other words, the same as most Annihilan or Eridar are. So he might actually qualify as a demon at this point in time. I hope not, because of reasons that'll be obvious. Welcome to the Magister's Terrace. Oops, wrong question. There it is. We were recently sent an expeditionary force into the Magister's Terrace to stop the Legion forces there. However, we haven't heard from them and fear the worst.
The Naru have not forgotten us.
Donharth thought we were dead? I haven't made any report, because we haven't made any progress past this point. Maybe you can help us change that.
Remember the lessons of the past.
We've had a contact embedded in Magister's Terrace gathering intelligence for us for some time, but we've lost contact with him. The information is vital.
Dionys Aka.
We cannot afford to lose this war. I'd like to empower our sentries so that men and women don't have to die. The Legion have gotten hold of a powerful elemental being. Its essence might be just what we need.
Glory to
Blessings
the Sindorai.
upon your family.
The Legion and Kael'thas's forces are becoming increasingly intertwined. This concerns me deeply. From what we can gather, Selin Fireheart and Priestess Delrissa work together to unite the two armies. You must stop them.
May your days be long and your hardships few.
Also, I actually totally think that if Uther had still been around, he would have been able to make everything better, basically. So welcome to the Magister's Terrace. This was a wonderful, wonderful addition to the lore. Fun fact, every expansion except for Pandaria has had a... oh, excuse me, I should add, and Warlords now, has had one patch right at the end that adds a raid, at least one dungeon, and a bunch of lore, and basically caps off the expansion. This is the one here, the Fury of the Sunwell patch, and the Magister's Terrace and the Sunwell raid itself. In Wrath, we had the 3 Icecrown dungeons and Icecrown Citadel itself. In Cataclysm, we had the 3 awesome Caverns of Time dungeons, and the Dragon Soul, which, okay, wasn't as awesome still, but those 3 dungeons were great. I was one of those people who was very, very upset we didn't get a cap a dungeon like we did in, you know, every other expansion up to that point. No, Warlords did not have a finale setup like we did in the other ones. So notice we have a whole bunch of wretches in here just consuming fell energy. Now, I know what you're thinking, but hear me out. I feel like this is a kindness. I feel like this is the last remnant of Kael'thas's, forgive me for the word, humanity. That there are so many wretched still around that he was like, okay, here. Give them places of comfort. Let them consume magic to their heart's content. Either he gains their loyalty, and therefore they are soldiers for him, or he gives them comfort in their dying days, because eating this kind of magic at this point will basically kill the wretched. Either way, I feel like this is one last act of kindness on the behalf of Kael'thas. This guy, well, this is a fell elf. Actually, I want to get a closer up shot of this so I can really show you what they look like. Camera. Bingo. Okay, I can't see his face. All that effort. So that is a fell elf. As you can see, he's actually got horns coming out of his head. His skin is turned red, etc. Again, elves pretty much have the same general effect to being fell infused, like orcs do. So that's exactly what happens with fell elves, and it's pretty much just as deleterious to their existence. Probably more so, actually. Once a respected captain of Kael'thas's personal guard, Selin Fireheart has maintained an unswervingly fierce loyalty to his lord while losing his sanity. Selin has been seduced by demonic energies of the crystals which surround his chamber, and he cannot stop from reveling in their power. He will slay any who dare approach the Magister's Terrace and drink the magic, life, and blood from their dead bodies.
You only waste my time.
So I wanted you to at least hear his quote, so I'm just going to stand here for a moment. That is also possible, Hylisk.
My hunger knows no bounds.
I'm going to go ahead and let him completely consume it, because I want to hear this quote that's about to happen.
Yes, I am a god!
Something about that quote just really amuses me. Anyways, so it's entirely possible that those people used to be his followers, just like Salen Fireheart here used to be.
More. I must have more.
Given how he sounds there, it's entirely possible this guy is 3 steps away from becoming a wretched himself, so that's entirely valid, Hylisk. Down he goes. I also want to draw your attention to this, because this is just disturbing looking. So there's an image of Kil'jaeden, or Sargeras, take your pick. And there's lots and lots of people being burned up in flame as they are just kind of disturbing looking. Yeah. Also, there's lots of statues of Kael'thas around here, because of course they are. Sure, Psychotic. You'll have to give me a moment. So notice they're actually keeping lots and lots of monoworms here, basically as pets, for lack of a better way to put it. And when I say pets, I of course mean food. Now, on the one hand, you know, that's not as disturbing as it might otherwise sound. I mean, you know, we keep cows around for food, right? But on the other hand, that's just kind of weird. And it's just, I don't know, something about that just kind of strikes me as, okay, you want me to show off the axe. They'll do Atlas, that'll be the quickest way to do that. Magister's Terrace. I can't read. Salen drops, you talking about this axe? Or do you mean the heroic one? Which you have to mean the normal one. So that is apparently the axe you mean. That thing right there. Hello, Shadow. So, come closer, Blood Elf. Listen to my words. Go, Terrace. Use the ore. It must be stopped before. And then he dies. So this is Vexillus. Let's see what they have to say about this. An arcane elemental of unimaginable power. Vexillus was summoned to the Magister's Terrace by a trio of Blood Elves who were slain by the force of his arrival. The magical energy in the surrounding crystals resonates with Vexillus, and his being is in a constant state of explosive, chaotic flux. Now I know what you're thinking. Why the hell would they summon an arcane elemental? To which I say, again, food. They are... see, the thing here... While I kind of agree with what Hylisk said, I kind of have a slightly variant perspective on it. It's my opinion that the tiny tidbit of the real Kael'thas that's still left in him... I'll answer that, Admiral Tippis. Remind me of the question so I don't forget. The tiny flicker of the original Kael'thas that's still left in his corrupted form probably has been desperately trying to help his people, because he has for, at this point, I think like 9 years or something like that. So when he finally comes back in force with power, I just imagine the first thing he's like, yes, here, take, drink of magic. And because he was so desperate for it to happen, and because he isn't quite sane at this point in time, he comes back with... It's like going to someone who's been dehydrating for some time and just drowning them, basically. Just, here, drink arcane magic. So he absolutely gluts all of his followers in tons and tons and tons of arcane and fell energy. And so I think he literally goes overboard with it in his own desire to help his own people. Whatever's left of the real him in there, I should say. So Avina, or Anvina, excuse me, I hate her name. You can overdose on water. That's a real thing. It's kind of horrible, but it's true. Hey, check it out. There's the Sunwell. This is a really nice touch. They even show the trash. That's the actual types of trash that are in the Sunwell. You can really see the level of quality they're starting to put into their patches. This is way heads over shoulders above the level of quality of everything else they've done in BC up to this point. I think it's one of the reasons so many people, myself included, think so fondly of the Sunwell patch. Because they really put a lot of polish into this one. You can even see the barrier right there that Mauru is maintaining around the Sunwell itself. I don't know what you're talking about, psychotic. Anyways, well, considering the Eridar are the ones summoning Kil'jaeden, I mean... And Vina. Okay, so, and Vina is debatable. That's why I wanted to hesitate on answering that question. The easy answer is Anvina is a physical manifestation of the Sunwell itself. Literally, after the Sunwell was collapsed, after everything went to hell, back during the events of Warcraft 3, there was a woman who was left over after the aftermath. I'm skipping over some details, by the way. I don't want to talk about Idiot. I already talked about him in the Ghostlands. The long and the short of it is that he was, she was, in every way that actually matters, the avatar of the Sunwell itself. And pretty much one of the only reasons the Sunwell actually survived and was capable of being reignited was because of the fact that she separated from it. So in many ways, she is the power of the Sunwell, okay? Now, I say it's more complicated than that because... she was in my opinion, I should add this point. In my opinion, she was a byproduct of droid effect. For those of you who don't know what droid effect means, it's when a sufficiently intelligent or sophisticated machine, or intelligence, or object, or whatever, has enough experiences and goes through enough things, and gathers knowledge and information and memories enough to become fully sentient and sapient, like a droid in Star Wars. So the idea here is that Anvina, after having a sufficient period of time, again, years, of interacting with others and working with others, and of course, most especially working with Kalecgos, ended up actually becoming an individual person, in addition to being the avatar of the Sunwell. This is unfortunate because that means she has to more or less cease existing in order to reignite the Sunwell, and she ends up doing so when we actually get there. There is one niggle here. So Kalecgos, he's a blue dragon. We'll be seeing him literally in seconds. He fell in love with Anvina. I don't know what else to add to that. Now, admittedly, that probably sounds a little bit weird, but in his defense, he's a blue dragon. Literally a magic dragon. Having a relationship with a creature that is effectively pure magic personified isn't that out of bounds. Yes, I did, Adam. Thank you. Spent a bunch of time on it. I have a few others, too, but that's my favorite one. Or is it on... Which side is it on? It is right up here. It is right here. Okay. So, why don't we go ahead and do this? There's Mauru, by the way. And there is Anvina, right there. Be still, mortals. Mortals! Actually, that doesn't count, because he's not saying it derogatorily. Hearken to my words. I actually agree, Hylisk. So here's Kalecgos. Fun fact, he's one of the only dragons who takes the appearance of a half-elf as his humanoid form. In fact, I believe he is actually the only dragon to take a half-elf as his human form, or as his humanoid form.
Kil'jaeden must be destroyed.
Who are you? I am Calicos of the Blue Dragonflight, soon to be Aspect, but then I'll lose the job seconds later. I have watched over the nascent powers of the Sunwell for some time, but now I see its terrible power could usher in the end of the world. What can we do? Defeating Kael'thas is a task worthy of your undivided attention. Beyond that, if you are capable of organizing an army, there are many wrongs in the Sunwell to be addressed. Perhaps we'll meet again in there. So, as a bit of an aside, Calicos has basically
hangs in the balance.
Been spending all of his time here at the Sunwell. He was pushed out of the Sunwell when Kil'jaeden and Kael'thas' forces came and took over the place. A lot of the reason they were able to do that, awesome by the way, Zagon. A lot of the reason they were able to do that is because of M'uru. Now, I want to stress for like the umpteen hyper-billionth time, I don't think M'uru was actually corrupted here. I don't think he was actually controlled here. I think he was going along with basically all of this willingly in order to affect the plan that actually did end up happening. Because remember, we know the Naru have prophetic powers, and that those prophecies are accurate. They have always been accurate. So, yeah. I think that M'uru is just going along with things in order to make sure everything lines up the way they already know it's going to. But anyways, let's turn to the quest.
There is no time to waste.
I consider it no coincidence that our paths cross this day. I sense the tendrils of destiny. As you've now witnessed, the Legion forces work tirelessly, manipulating the Sunwell's power to achieve their own malevolent ends. Kael'thas has risen from the ashes of defeat, and once more leads them in their efforts. He must be stopped.
The fate of the world hangs in the balance.
And this squirrel right here is Squirrel Enix. Die! Sorry. The Legion is draining her power in order to summon Kil'jaeden. You cannot summon very, very powerful beings with just a regular summoning portal. You need something of tremendous power to summon them. This has been consistent throughout all of Warcraft. So in order to actually physically bring Kil'jaeden into Azeroth, they're using the power of the Sunwell to ignite it and use it as a portal to draw him in. I don't know, Graith. I'd say relatively yes, but not like too much more. Also, these guys just look really cool. That's all I have to say about them. These are like the coolest golems in the entire game, in my opinion. Look at these things. Giant bladed arms of awesome. See this room? I hate pulling this room on Heroic. Every single one of these mobs. So these mobs are randomly decided every time you come in here. Which ones are going to be in here. And each one of them has a unique mechanic, and each one of them sucks and has to be countered in a specific way. Think of each of these as a mini council fight, just in terms of trash. And as you can see, there's a lot of mobs in a very dense area. So it's very, very easy to pull one extra pack. And if you pulled 2 packs on Heroic, you were probably dead. If you pulled 3 packs on Heroic, you were absolutely dead. This room was fun. And yes, by the way, you notice there's some Ethereum here. That would be the Ethereals who specifically were working to make themselves into the Void. So a fun little area there. We're not actually done with it yet, but this area was always easier because we had more maneuvering room. And then we have an actual council fight. So again, the bosses you would have here are relatively random. Let's see, we've got our Warlock, we've got Engineer, Hunter, and Shaman, looks like, today. And of course, Priest. We always have Priest. What do you mean, Dark Monster? Like, not to my knowledge, no.
Annihilate them!
Okay.
Well, aren't you lucky? No one gets me down. Not what I have finished you myself.
And she's dead. That fight used to be pretty rough, though, in all sincerity. Usually, once you fought that fight, you had won. Kael'thas was much easier by contrast. One last pack of doom. You notice this had, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 mobs. This was a 6-pack. Oh.
Smug. I know what you're thinking. But Tempest Keep was merely a setback. Did you honestly believe I would trust the future to some blind, half-night elf mongrel? Oh, no. He was merely an instrument. A stepping stone to a much larger plan. It has all led to this. And this time, you will not interfere.
So, first of all, a couple things I want to talk about with poor Kael'thas here. This is actually a pretty well-designed fight. It's basically a miniature version of his Tempest Keep fight. So people who never got to see the Tempest Keep fight kind of got to see it here. That's not Cam Clark. That's Quentin Flynn. Yeah, I'm going to try and get a good shot of that. I'm not sure how close I'm going to be able to get here before he aggroes. That's probably as close as I dare right there. So there's Kael'thas as he looks right now. Note he looks a lot like a Wretched now. I want to really stress that point. So you'll notice, first of all, he's only got 2 of his orbs left. That's because we took the 3rd one and turned it into a doll. So good continuity on that. Props to them. Second of all, he took a freaking Fel Crystal and jabbed it into his chest. I don't even have words for that. That is so horrifying. I mean, we've seen what I pointed out, how the Wretched would embed mana crystals into their backs and skin and whatnot, and that was pretty just disgustingly horrible. He jabbed a Fel Crystal into his chest. So yeah, Kael'thas is not long for this world in any meaningful fashion. In fact, I would argue at this point in time, the real Kael'thas is long dead. This is not even a shell of the original person left over. And the fact that he needs that kind of Fel energy literally pumping directly into him just to function kind of helps showcase how far he's fallen at this point. Hang on, I saw a question from the Admiral here. Okay, so Kael'thas actually doesn't have much to do with the summoning of Kil'jaeden personally. What Kael'thas had been doing has been gathering tons and tons of energy from across the Netherstorm, channeling it thanks to his ethereal allies back here so that they could use all that energy to reignite the Sunwell. Remember, the Sunwell was basically completely destroyed by Kael'thas. Now, before you think that's weird, when Kel'Thuzad was resurrected through the energies of the Sunwell, it polluted and corrupted the energies, and Kael'thas, in the heat of the moment, thought, the only way to save my people, because this was deeply affecting them in a horrible, undead kind of a way, was to detonate the Sunwell. So the Sunwell went silent. It basically was just a well of dormant water at that point. With all the power that he summoned from the Netherstorm, he was able to reignite the Sunwell and then drag Anvina back. And now the Eridar, who have nothing to do with Kael'thas at this point, really, are the ones actually channeling the magics into the Sunwell, the reignited Sunwell, in order to summon Kil'jaeden through it. I hope that answers your question.
Whoa! Turn your world upside down.
So I didn't get to show this off.
My demise accomplishes nothing.
Damn it.
The Master will have you. You will drown in your own blood. The world shall burn. Ah!
Yeah, no, that is not Kael'thas. That. Ugh. Yeah. And, I'm on normal. That's fine. Compare and contrast that for the real Kael'thas back in Tempest Keep, whose final words were, "For Quel'Thalas." Also, huge props to Quentin Flynn for making that sound just as disturbing as it needed to be. When I first heard Kael'thas say that, I was just like, damn, dude. Holy crap. Yeah, there is no Kael'thas left at that point.
Arcanon Poros. Remain vigilant.
Also, you got a really nice red gem for doing these
Do not
quests.
lose faith.
So that's always nice. Oh, the pet can drop? Well, I shrug. I didn't get the pet. Ugh, fine. Also, because again, we're in the now we're starting to design stuff better section of the game, there's actually a portal back outside once you defeat him. So that's a nice thing. But now, of course, it's time to do the raid itself, which we're not actually going to be doing on this character. I have someone a little better set up for fighting that raid, because Sunwell is, well, it's not as rough as it used to be, but it's still the Sunwell. Oh god, psychotic. Sunwell was a brilliantly designed raid, but had the same problem Noxuramus did. Namely, it was very, very, very difficult. You had to have the coordination, you had to have the situational awareness, and you had to have the gear. And if you didn't, then you had no business being there. That's pretty much all it boiled down to. As I said, I have reached M'uru in here back in the day. That is my crowning accomplishment. We never actually downed M'uru. So as you can see, we've been fighting against their forces, but haven't really made a lot of ground into the plateau itself. These are the absolute most elite forces, hey penguin, of Kil'jaeden's bastards. I actually already have the bow on this character. Psychotic. These, I want to make this clear, these are not Kael'thas's forces. These are not Illidan's forces. These are solely the forces of Kil'jaeden. You see these guys, the Sunblades? This is why I wanted to talk about the Sunblades later. The Sunblades are specifically the Blood Elves who, willingly or otherwise, absolutely were totally okay with working for Kil'jaeden. And so these are ones who are not loyal to Kael'thas, or to Quel'Thalas, or to the Elves, or to Azeroth, or anything else. These guys are solely loyal to Kil'jaeden. Kil'jaeden has granted them significant power, and that's all they really want out of life. This trash right here has to be taken very seriously. I wouldn't say it's hard in the strictest sense of the word. I know that sounds weird, because basically all you have to do is not mess up. Now, again, I know that sounds weird, but my point is, as long as you don't mess up, everything will be kept very much under control with this trash. However, if you do mess up, you're probably going to wipe. Because this trash, it basically offers no room for error. And that's really helps describe Sunwell in general. No room for error. I think I already have that recipe. Pretty sure I already have that recipe. Yep, there it is, Hardened Corium. I was going to say, better have that one. Should have every recipe from this character. This is my 100% character. Oh, that they would not. I was like, that sentence doesn't make sense, Wraith. Honestly, I don't know what the Titans are thinking, and since we've already learned something new about the Titans a couple of days ago when they announced that book, I'm gonna save my thoughts on that until I read the rest of the book, and maybe it'll reveal more about the reality of the Titans. Also, hey, Lonely. I gotta be honest, this whole area looks gorgeous. It's also a very well designed. It's actually not that big. This is the entirety of the Sunwell, a very small raid, relatively speaking. But it loops around itself and it goes up and down, uses some good vertical space to make it larger in terms of total terrain, even if its relative real estate is relative, or not real estate, its relative square footage is kind of small. Yes, it is a very dense raid. The Warcraft Chronicles Volume 1 book, Gruels, which was announced Friday, I want to say? Friday or Saturday, very recently. And they've already shown a couple of pages from it. In fact, I've got one up on the back of my monitor right there. Good music in the Sunwell, too. Why is that? Oh, right, whoops. I had my Medallion of Karabor on. Whoops. So, let's go ahead and see if we can go ahead and find Azurgos, or Calicos, excuse me, Calicos. Hey, there he is! Okay, Calicos, hey! Hey, what's up? Okay, so he said he'd meet us in here, so clearly he's here to help us go after Kil'jaeden. This is fantastic. Listen, we could really use your help, Kaligos. I was kind of thinking maybe you could help guide us, maybe you could fly us further in, or...
No longer will I be a slave to Malygos. Challenge me and you will be destroyed.
Dude, Kaligos.
I will purge you.
What are you doing, buddy? Dude, why are you trying to kill me, man? Here, something's just not right about this situation. There we go. Aha! There's Kaligos! Hey, what's up, dude? Oh, crap! It's Sethravar! Yeah, quick! Get him! Get him! Yeah! Yeah! Okay, okay.
Never on the losing side!
Okay. Feel better, Kaligos?
I am forever in your debt. Once we have triumphed over Kil'jaeden, this entire world will be in your debt as well.
Awesome. Good to know, man.
There is no time to waste.
You want to give us a lift, buddy? No? Okay, whatever. So yeah, that was honest-to-goodness demonic possession. We can also see how demonic possession works. Also, this sword looks awesome. I wanted it a long time for my thing. 18,990. Lonely. So, no, that's not Cam Clark. I forget who voices Kaligos. He's done his voice in several expansions, because Kaligos is actually still, even in Legion, he's been a fairly recurring character throughout basically from BC onwards. He's basically what I like to call the blue dragon with a brain. He might actually be the only blue dragon with a brain, other than Madragosa. Or not Madragosa. Oh, what's her name? Shoot, what's her name? What's her name? Oh, my guy's gonna bother me. Terragosa. Kaligos and Terragosa are probably the only two blue dragons that actually have a brain, in my opinion. So before we start this event... so yeah, that's how demonic possession functions in this setting. We don't really see a lot of examples of demonic possession. But we actually kind of literally physically see it there in that fight. I should talk about that fight a little bit. So, a Nethrazim literally entered Kaligos' mind and just basically tried to hold off and fight his actual self, his soul, if you will, within there. And that's how it works. And so the creature outside is basically just a puppet for the Nethrazim, whereas the inside is where you actually are. It's kind of a messed up situation. No, Malygos is a complicated situation. I will talk about him later when we get to Wrath and kill him. Anyways, so up here we have Madragosa, who actually we saw earlier, who is fighting one of the more interesting Annihilans.
Hold, friends. There's information to be had before this devil meets his fate.
That's Brutalis. Probably my favorite Annihilan.
Demon, what has become of Kalik?
Puny lizard! Death is the only answer you will find here.
For reference, she's a full-fledged blue dragon, not a drake. He is a pit lord who can't fly.
You will tell me where they are.
I know, but I want to see the cutscene, Psychotic.
Ah! Your magic is weak!
Speak. I grow weary of asking.
I will crush you!
Malygos, my lord, I did my best.
That was fun, but I still await a true challenge. Come, try your luck!
that line right there kind of emphasizes Brutalis' personality in a nutshell. So you'll notice Brutalis has no wings. You'll also notice he has no hands or eyes. He is literally a battle pit lord. He is someone who has been so scarred and so ripped apart and by so many battles that he has just kept replacing his wounded body parts. I guess he has one eye, forgive me. His wounded body parts with things like that. He is basically the Kargath Blade Fist of the Annihilan, and that really is it. I mean, he is just a massive, brutal death machine, and that's really all there is to him. There's no complexity, but I like it none the same. It's probably interesting to me, especially because I imagine in Pit Lord society, Brutalis would actually have a great deal of veneration amongst the other guys. So this guy could kill you even at 90 if you didn't know what you were doing. He just hits so hard. And yeah, as the fight goes on, he hits harder. This was literally the gear check. You'll notice this is the second boss of the Sunwell. I'm sorry, I meant to talk about the mechanics of the last boss briefly. So when we were fighting Kalecgos, there's two sides of the fight. Top and bottom is what we usually refer to it as. Kalecgos and the demon, Satharvar. So the Kalecgos fight, he does random wild magic effects, he does debuffs, he does dispels, you know, all sorts of random stuff that doesn't necessarily matter. Every now and again a portal would show up. You go to the portal, you go down, and then you try to help Kalecgos face the Nethrezim down here, which is basically the real fight. Both of these have to be defeated in order to progress. If this guy successfully kills Kalik down here, then you can't actually win the fight. It is a wipe. So you have to wipe and then reset and try again. It was a wonderful combination because you can't just go down forever. You can't just split up your raid. If you don't go down, you get a debuff, which means you can't go down again. So you had to have a rotation of people who are capable of going down to the bottom area and then go back up to the other area and then go back to the bottom area. And it was this whole wonderful dance you had to do, cycling basically about a fourth of your raid into the areas. Shadow, don't be a child. Into your raid, into the different sides of the raid as quickly as you could. And yeah, it was fun. It was fun. This guy is actually surprisingly complex for literally being a gear check. You had to kill this guy in 4 minutes or 5 minutes. He had a very, very short hardened rage. Now, I haven't actually talked about this yet. I've talked about softened rages. For a bit of a refresher, for those of you who didn't hear me talk about this, and thank you, Lurker, by the way. A softened rage is when they have a mechanic that just makes them stronger or limits your maneuvering form or whatever, and so that over time, there's no actual point at which you just artificially lose, but it's becoming more and more likely you're going to lose over time, right? A hardened rage is when you hit a specific point in time and he just kills you. It's just, all right, I'm done, you're dead. And his hardened rage was very short. Again, like 4 or 5 minutes. It was very, very quick. 6 minutes. And yeah, by the way, he has less health than he used to, because he only has 4.7 million health now, after the debuffed version. But he used to have a ton of health and 6 minutes to kill him. This guy was insane to push through. And that's not even his hard mechanic. That's just, you have to maintain this DPS, or you can't beat him. Period. He also had the fire debuff, which made it so you took more fire damage, and then he had this stacking thing where he just nailed the crap out of whoever his tank was. So you had to have like, what was it, like 30-second tank swaps? Very, very quick tank swaps relative to every other tank swap. And just this massive amount of crap going on. Oh, and the debuff, which spread to other people around you. So if you get the debuff, you have to stop DPSing, get out of range, and then try not to spread it to other players nearby. It was a lot of coordination on top of being the single most difficult gear check. I would argue this is probably the most difficult gear check in the entire game. Back in the day, back when this is actually new. There have been other gear checks. You know, Ottoman was a gear check, Patchwork was a gear check. But this guy was just a, no really, you better have Black Temple on farm before you try this guy. I used to know the numbers, Mind Blast, but I don't remember anymore what the DPS required. I guess I can look that up really quick. Why not, while we're here? Here we go. Here we go. So the raid DPS had to be at a bare minimum of 25,000 in order to be able to bring this guy down. Now you might be like, that sounds really short. That sounds like nothing. Again, it's hard to understand how much damage that was. That was an insane amount of DPS. Each individual player had to be pushing out about 1.5 thousand DPS individually, which again was not the easiest thing to do. We're going to just obliterate him, of course, but I will freely admit, even going back and doing this place at 90 was hard.
Lambs to the slaughter.
So after hyping this guy up, he's down.
Well done. Now, this gets interesting.
$100 DPS requirement would generally considered to be closer to 2.2 for this one, based on the information I literally just looked up. Yeah, 10,500,000 health and a 6-minute enraged timer, which means an absolute bare minimum, excuse me, there's the exact number right here, of 29,167,000 DPS in order to kill him and beat his berserk timer. There is the occasion, apparently there were kills that managed 6 minutes and 28 seconds, because when he hard enrages, the way his hard enrage works is he just kills whatever he's hitting. He like quintuples his damage. So it's like, bam, you're dead. Bam, you're dead. Bam, you're dead. But you still get a few extra precious seconds. So if he's at like 1% health, while he just starts one-shotting your raid bit by bit, if you can kill him in that last moment, and I've had kills like this in the past where like we were dying horribly, and what's with all this fell blood that's going into Madragosa? Something's odd here. Are you okay, Madragosa? Whoa! Hey, what happened to all your skin? Holy crap.
Glory to Kil'jaeden! Death to all who oppose!
Holy crap. I guess that's exactly what fell blood can do to someone. Of course, this is not news. We've shown this off ever since Hellfire Peninsula. You've seen exactly what fell blood can do to someone. It's pretty messed up. So yeah, she was a loyal blue dragon of Malygos until the blood hit her, and now she's that thing, and thoroughly a slave of Kil'jaeden. Felmist for our group was actually a lot harder than Brutalis. She only has one mechanic that really deserves to be talked about, and that's the mind control gas of doom. She would basically point a direction, and you'd have to figure out which direction she's pointing in, and get the hell out of dodge before she goes through it. Otherwise, you're mind controlled, and that's the end of the raid. I mean, seriously, that was a wipe, if that happened. That's in addition to the fact that she'll follow people around with a beam. She gets like a laser beam kind of a thing, and it follows you around. As it goes, it spawns undead. In addition to the fact that it just plain on kills you and leaves a trail of fire on the ground. And a bunch of other wonderful, horrible mechanics. I hate this fight. I have hated Felmist for a long time. When we used to come back here at 80 with an actual group of like 10 people, this was usually as far as we got because people wouldn't understand that they had to actually use tactics on Felmist, and they would lose to her. So we're just gonna kill her.
Kil'jaeden will prevail.
That is possible. He is still alive. In fact, what else did she do? I barely remember the rest of her mechanics. Hang on, Felmist. There was the fact that she...
Madragosa deserved a far better fate.
Oh, hey, Kelligos.
You did what had to be done. But this battle is far from over.
Hey, can we get a ride? No? Well, thanks for opening the way, at least. That's kind of nice. Seriously, we could use some help. Whatever. Thanks for nothing, Kelligos. So you notice we've got some fell elves at this point. I point that out because the earlier elves who were loyal here were not actually fell elves. Those are the Dawnblade. These are the Shadow Swords. The Shadow Swords are the ones who are really loyal to Kil'jaeden, the ones who have been rewarded for their service and their loyalty to Kil'jaeden. And that reward is, of course, the fact that they can then drink the blood of demons, which turns them into things like this. Hello. Turns into things like this. As you can see a little bit clearer what the fell elves look like there. Also, that sword is awesome looking. I had it for a transmog for quite a while. still have it, I think. I just don't use it anymore. So this next boss is one of the only bosses I have a hard time explaining, because it's bizarrely complicated. Like, it's not really complex compared to certain other fights, but it's another one of those, if you twitch and do the wrong thing, you're probably going to wipe the entire raid situations. Again, Sunwell was very, very unforgiving. I'm not even going to talk about how horrible this trash was. By the way, this is a gauntlet. I didn't even mention that. This is a gauntlet I've been going through. In addition to the fact that more elves are always coming, which suicide bomb you, as you saw, more Shadow Sword show up. Yes, the Eridar twins. So we're about to see the first female Eridar we've ever seen in the game. Also, some of the only female Eridars we've seen in the game. They're not very common. There have been a couple after this point. Oh, I'm lying. These are the second female Eridar, because there was the one in Blood Mist. So, I'm going to try and explain this fight a little bit.
Misery, depravity, confusion, hatred, mistrust, chaos. These are the hallmarks. These are the pillars.
So that's the Lady Sacrolash and the Grand Warlock Alethes. So some people had to be up here, some people had to be over there, some people had to occasionally dump out of light of sight. That one's shadow, that one's fire. The shadow makes the fire hurt more, the fire makes the shadow hurt more. You need to kill one, then the other. You can't actually kill them both at the same time, not that you could even try that back in the day. Getting the positioning on this fight was really the hard part. Once you get that done, doing the actual execution wasn't nearly as bad. Who should we kill first, fire or shadow? See, notice this flame touch I'm giving? It's doing this massive dot, but if you notice I just took shadow damage, that actually got rid of the dot. You'll notice I'm also getting hit by shadow things here.
Aid of shadow!
You notice it's actually damaging me even though I'm level 100, by the way. Just to emphasize how much damage these things can do if you're not taking care of them properly.
Fail me and suffer for eternity.
Shut up, Kil'jaeden.
Shadow to the aid of fire!
I'm hearing fire first, so we'll take out fire.
Alethes! Your fire burns within me.
The moment you defeat one, the other one gets stronger and also gets healed to full health. That's why you couldn't kill him at the same time. And then the fight actually gets a little bit rougher, believe it or not. Because now you don't have any ability to take care of the debuffs. Hey look, there's the bow I use on my hunter. And the wrong pet. Oh, whatever, I'll take it anyways. Alright guys, so I want you all to give me marathon luck, okay? Coming up is Mauru. He drops a pet I need. I haven't gotten that pet to drop yet. If I could get this pet to drop, then I would be done with the Sunwell. I wouldn't have to come back here anymore every week. So I really need this pet to drop, and it would be awesome if it dropped live on camera. Oops, I shouldn't be idling with these guys. So fingers crossed. I've gotten 2 other pets in this frickin' place that I don't want. Those are just gold at this point. As you can see, there's the Magister Terrace over there. We actually saw this spiral leading up when we were over there. These trash right here, the Apocalypse Guard, were actually pretty funny. Once they got low on health, they got to a point where they could only take holy damage. Now, I don't know how much you know about how raiding was like in BC, but there were not very many sources of holy damage. So, basically these guys went invincible after a certain point in time. So there's Mauru. Now, I've already really discussed this, but I really want to re-emphasize something. So Mauru is actually being utilized by Kil'jaeden. No, I do not, Draculius. Was being utilized by Kil'jaeden to maintain the barrier over the Sunwell, and to make sure that no one could interfere with his summoning. Mauru also, Kil'jaeden believed, was actually corrupted and working for him. Also, you can see what a Naru looks like at the furthest end of its lifespan. Look how dark it's become at this point in time. I've shown you several different Naru throughout the course of this run through Outland. And we've seen the super bright one, like Adal, and we've seen ones that are kind of still dimming, and we've seen ones that are on the verge of death. This guy right here is pretty much... You notice there's only a tiny spark of light left in him. Everything else has been consumed by void. What you are looking at is a Naru who is literally seconds or minutes or whatever from death at this point in time, relative to their time perspective. Excuse me. Ugh. This, I don't even have words to explain how ridiculously hard this fight is. Ads will come in through this door. There will be portals spawned on the ground, which also spawn ads. Then he goes to phase 2. This fight was stupidly, ridiculously complicated hard, and it was very precise. If you screwed up on any facet of it whatsoever, it was over. And as you can see, this is what happens when a Naru dies. They turn into one of these things. Notice it still has the Naru symbols on its wings back there. And when it dies, it leaves one tiny little crystal. It's kind of hovering in the air there. Yes! It dropped! It totally freaking dropped. Holy crap. Where is it? Where is it? There it is! Void color! Woo! Sorry. Yay! What did I just get? The Chaos Pop! Let's see. The twisting nether is an infinite abyss of terrors and one small corner of extreme cuteness. There he is. We're not sure, Mind Blast, since this is the only Naru we see die in such a fashion. Also, I like how freaking Fell Reavers are the last trash here. Well, second to last trash, really. What should I name him? I'll have to come up with a name. I should call him Lorerun. Void and Fell are very different energies, QQ. They aren't actually even compatible with each other, too. Leveling a pet takes like 4 minutes. And like 3 battles. That's not hard. So there you can see the open air of the Sunwell. There's Anvina being utilized. You can see the connection between her and the reignited Sunwell. And this is the literal last trash in the Sunwell right there. Those 3 guys. They're not hard. Then we have Kil'jaeden himself. Now, Kil'jaeden, in most guilds who actually did this back in the day said Kil'jaeden was not as hard as M'uru. I can't speak to that, obviously. I never fought him back in the day. I will say, when we fought him... Okay, so, right before Wrath came out, they did a patch where they kind of... It was an acclamation patch. And they nerfed all of Sunwell bosses. Quite a bit, actually. So we were able to go through and actually clear the instance for the first time. Clear the raid. I will say, from that perspective, M'uru was much more difficult than Kil'jaeden in the nerfed version. Oh no, they're much stronger, Magister. I suppose I could name it. That's a good idea. We'll name him M'uru. Rename. M'uru. Ah! I can't add apostrophes. Okay, I will rename you... M'uru. I'll just know. I'll just know. Hang on, we gotta desummon him and resummon him so he gets his name out. Dismiss. Summon. There we go. There he is. Hi, M'uru. Who's a good M'uru? Who's a good M'uru? There you go. Who's a good boy? 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 Scritch the eye stalks. Alright, anyways. So let's go after Kil'jaeden. I don't have a lot of lore to share about Kil'jaeden, because, I mean, he's such a major lore character that there's not much to add for this fight. I'll try to show off the fight overall as best as I can. So notice how Kil'jaeden kind of halfway comes through here. And then we fight him.
The expendable have perished. So be it. Now I shall succeed where Sargeras could not. I will bleed this wretched world and secure my place as the true master of the Burning Legion. The end has come. Let the unraveling of this world commence. You are not alone. The blue dragonflight shall help you vanquish the deceiver.
Archimonde. Easy answer. So, hang on. I'm going to try to do a little bit of damage to him, just a little. To push him into his next phase. Probably not too much more, QQ.
The enemy is among you.
So as you can see, he can summon reflections of yourself. Oh, and yeah, and he has that big ol' ability. Which I believe is the first time we've seen the Shadow Crash attack in-game. Also, one thing that I do want to mention lore-wise...
Anvina, you must awaken. This world needs you.
I serve only the Master now.
I will not be denied. This world shall fall. I will channel my powers into the orbs. Be ready!
The active orbs we have here. Yeah, everything he's doing hurts like hell, by the way. Just everything he's doing. He's shooting shadow skulls at me, for God's sakes. So he's about to do an attack called Darkness of 1,000 Souls. Whoops! Okay, apparently I can't hop into a blue dragon while I'm the only one in the raid. Did not know that. Never actually tried that. Sorry, guys. Didn't think that would reset him. I was going to show you off the blue dragon. So you can gain the abilities of a blue dragon in order to survive. You literally have to do that when he does the massive attack of doom. So we're going to wait for him to respawn. There we go. As I was saying, I'm going to turn off the voice acting for just a second. One thing to note here is that Kil'jaeden pretty much flat out says here something that we have all suspected for quite a bit of time. The fact that he actually wants very much to take over the Burning Legion from Sargeras, to prove that he is the Legion Lord, as opposed to, you know, just another slave to Sargeras. I only mention that because it's the only bit of actual real evidence we have to that otherwise theory. I mean, you could say, oh, Kil'jaeden is naturally an ambitious individual, and sure, he'd want that. But there's no evidence of that other than that line right there. And yeah, by the way, you only have a number of orbs, like, ever. Whoops. Is he... yeah, he's doing this thing. There we go. Yeah, I didn't mean to hit Bladestorm. Yes, Kil'jaeden is still alive, by the way. Whereas Archimonde is probably, asterisk, fully dead.
You must awaken. This world needs you.
Maybe. We're not sure about that.
I serve only the Master now.
I will not be denied. This world shall fall.
It is actually, by the way...
channel my powers into the orbs. Be ready.
I better use an orb. Oh, wait. It is worth noting that Kil'jaeden actually is in charge of the Legion at this point in time, near as we can tell. Since we're not actually sure where Sargeras is or what he's doing. Not yet, Nether, no. We might not find out for a while, too. I mean, hell, we all thought he was permanently... Well, some people thought he was permanently dead after Warcraft 3, and all of a sudden, no, he's back! So, who knows? No, in my opinion, the Scourge would have won that battle. So this is Darkness of 1,000 Souls. You get in the dragon form, forms a barrier, and you survive this attack, which otherwise just flat out kills you. Notice it didn't do anything to me, but trust me, it would just flat out kill you. There was no surviving that attack without that bubble from the blue dragon. Damn it, Hylas. Well, see, that's actually one thing I wanted to mention. Remember, we're not actually sure where Sargeras is or what he's doing. I mention that because I doubt Kil'jaeden would be so open and brazen. Kil'jaeden, the intelligent one, about his desire to take over the Legion. If not for the fact that, in some manner, Sargeras was predisposed towards being elsewhere, you know? Destruction. My general point here I'm trying to reach is that I think Sargeras is... or indisposed, excuse me. I think Sargeras is indisposed. I don't think he's dead. But I think he's inactive, if you follow me. Otherwise, Kil'jaeden would never try for such a thing so brazenly. Yeah, let's push his health a little bit down. Absolutely, Vlaco. It would not be hard. All it would require was a specific set of circumstances. Oh, to answer QQ's question, based on what I showed you earlier at the Sunwell, how the demons, which included Anilan, Bitlords, and Nethrezim, and Eridar, were having trouble keeping up with the Scourge, who had no leader. I feel like pointing out just random Scourge. Yeah, no, the Scourge are a unique threat. I'm pretty sure they would be able to defeat the Legion, even if Kil'jaeden was fully summoned here. Destruction. Also, as an interesting point of note, nothing we've ever seen has shown that Archimonde is trying to take over the Burning Legion from Sargeras. Only Kil'jaeden has mentioned that. Liadrin's awesome. She knows humility, certainly, and that says something. Especially for a Blood Elf who used to be one of the highest-ranking Blood Elves that there was, and head of the Blood Knights.
Who can you trust?
The fact that they can come back basically infinitely, QQ.
You must let go. You must become what you were always meant to be. The time is now, Anvina.
But I'm lost. I cannot find my way back.
Do not harbor false hope. You cannot win.
No, Cashel, because the Wisps are not what killed Archimonde.
Horde is ready. Make haste.
I don't know what the Lich King is in Legion, and I don't want to know. So let's just leave those spoilers out the window. But yeah, the Wisps didn't kill Archimonde. The detonation of Nordrassil killed Archimonde. The Wisps just detonated it. So, unless we have another convenient world tree with hundreds of years of energy and power built into it in order to sacrifice, in order to take out any Demon Lord, then no, we're not going to be able to repeat the same trick. In fact, you might be like, oh, you're right, we do have a world tree right now. We have Teldrassil. Yes, we have one Teldrassil. So we have basically one ammo. So we could use that to kill one Demon Lord, and then when the next one shows up, we're screwed. So no, it's not a viable strategy. It was a very desperate last-ditch effort that also was, if things hadn't gone the way they had, was going to cost the Night Elves their immortality. Also, notice the meteors everywhere. Well, Zawan, one step at a time. We're going to be doing the Howling Fjord first. Before that, we're going to do some discussion, because that's how that usually works. We want to talk about the Scourge invasion, after all.
Oblivion!
Notice how this fight, this is a pretty decently designed fight. It's just lots and lots of stuff all happening pretty much at the same time. That's really the description of this fight in a nutshell. Nowhere near as finely tuned as Ma'uru, but still very brutal, especially if you didn't know what you were doing. We actually did wipe on this guy a few times, even when he was nerfed.
The enemy is among you.
But again, most of my information from when he was before comes from people who are not me, because I never fought this guy at full strength.
Anvina, I love you. Focus on my voice. Come back for me now. Only you can cleanse the Sunwell.
Kalik? Kalik?
Yes, Anvina. Let fate embrace you now.
The nightmare is over. The spell is broken. Goodbye, Kalik, my love.
The powers of the Sunwell turn against me. What have you done? What have you done?
I have channeled all I can. The power is in your hands. Strike now, heroes, while he is weakened. Vanquish the deceiver.
Destruction.
So now he has a debuff. He will take increased damage from Holy. Yay.
Oblivion.
That's the last of the event, so we're going to just go ahead and kill him now. We've been toying with him this entire time. I bet he's really pissed off. It's like, hey, dude, not cool. Let's see what loot he dropped. He dropped the sword. Do I already own that? I'll grab it just in case.
Goodbye, Anvina, my love. Few will remember your name, yet this day you changed the course of destiny. What was once corrupt is now pure. Heroes, do not let her sacrifice be in vain.
Mauru is running around. So right about now, the Shattered Sun finally shows up. A little late, guys. I'm just gonna shush.
Mortal heroes, your victory here today was foretold long ago. My brother's anguished cry of defeat will echo across the universe, bringing renewed hope to all those who still stand against the burning Crusade. As the Legion's final defeat draws ever nearer, stand proud in the knowledge that you have saved worlds without number from the flame. Just as this day marks an ending, so too does it herald a new beginning. The creature Entropius, whom you were forced to destroy, was once the noble Naru, Mu'uru. In life, Mu'uru channeled vast energies of light and hope. For a time, a misguided few sought to steal those energies.
Our arrogance was unpardonable. We damned one of the most noble beings of all. We may never atone for this sin.
Then fortunate it is that I have reclaimed the noble Naru's spark from where it fell. Where faith dwells, hope is never lost, young blood elf.
Can it be?
Gaze now, mortals, upon the heart of M'uru. Unblemished, bathed by the light of creation, just as it was at the dawn. In time, the light and hope held within will rebirth more than this mere fount of power. Mayhap they will rebirth the soul of a nation.
Blessed ancestors, I feel it. So much love, so much grace. There are no words. Impossible to describe.
Salvation, young one. It waits for us all. Farewell.
So as I've mentioned several times, thanks to M'uru's careful positioning and sacrifice, the Sunwell is reignited, which reconnects all of the elves, the High Elves and the Blood Elves, back with the magical energies that maintain their lives and prevent them from ever succumbing to the wretched corruption in the future. Furthermore, it also reconnects them to the light, specifically. So again, he redeems and saves a race he literally had never met, up until that point in time, when he made the decision to do so. Personally, I think this was a really big moment for Lady Liadrin. This probably was a huge humbler for her, and it's probably why we see a bit of her in the future, and she's way more awesome of a person. And there's Mini M'uru running around, very excited to have saved all of these people. And now, to become a blue dragon. What? So you can do a couple of things. You can go blink, which is to get to people, so you can do the big thing, which I'll show off in a thing. You can breathe on someone to make them go faster. You can breathe on someone to heal them and restore their mana. And of course, the bubble, which was the really important part, to survive the death of a Shadow of a Thousand Suns. So I just wanted to show that off really quick. There we go. So that was the Sunwell, and as a consequence, that's BC. Next thing to talk about, I'm actually going to do a chop off here, so we can start Northrend proper. So next thing to talk about will, of course, be the Scourge invasion. I'll see you in a bit, guys.